I'll text you
Here we
this.
go. Okay, cool. It's all good. It's okay. Hey, um, yeah. So thank you everybody who is or will be listening and watching and joining in the conversation. We are talking today about generational wealth, and just want to have an impromptu chop it up type of conversation with my friend Mika and my friend Tyler, who has been so generous to take out the time to join me. And Tyler's grandbaby. What's the baby's name in the back?
Leilana.
Leilana. Hey, say hi to the world, girl. And so, yeah, so we're just going to hang out and talk a little bit because let me just share with you guys how I got on this kick about the generational wealth thing. I was talking to a young lady who was upset because someone in the family passed away, and there was no life insurance for the individual, and she was saying that this is another example of how people miss out on creating generational wealth, because she said that had the individual had life insurance, maybe there wouldn't have been enough left over for the family to continue now without him, right? And so I was thinking, man, I wonder how many other people really realize the different avenues of creating some sort of bank for their family, and how that translates, and understanding how that translates into generational wealth. And then the other thing I that made me get on this is a friend of mine was talking about how when his son was born, every time there was an event, a baptism, his first communion, things like that, anytime they gave him money, that money went into some sort of stock type of account, right? To where now this kid has about $30 or $40,000, right? And he's only 15 or 16 years old now, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so we don't think about that kind of stuff, right? Sometimes as parents and across the board. So that's how and why I got on this kick. And so without further ado, I just want to start off by asking you guys, and then I'm going to walk away and open the window because I'm hot, and just ask you guys if you can give me your definition. When you hear generational wealth, what comes to your mind? And I'll be right back. I'm listening to y'all though, so don't think, all right, I'm right here.
I defer to our sister.
Thank you. So, generational wealth has been on the back burner for the duration of my life up until like the pandemic, right? Because like everybody's thinking like, wow, life is being shaken up right now. So I hadn't put much thought into it. Like things passively have come about, like having life insurance policies, making sure you save money and whatnot, but it's been expedited because of the pandemic for me. So I've really been trying to create a plan to to access it. So for me, generational wealth is leaving behind a legacy for your family to prosper, to grow, to have a step ahead, so that when you pass on, debt is not left, and or they have a upper hand to continue to build more wealth, so that the money can just be passed down generationally and to acquire things and to have assets without such hardships. So that's my definition of generational wealth.
Yeah, that's great. I look at generational wealth from a lens that is informed not just by experience but also by my faith. Um, so, um, in Christian terminology, the people of God are supposed to, from generation to generation, go from glory to glory and faith to faith. In other words, greater manifestation of the power of God in their lives, and possibilities and potential within themselves from generation to generation, and from faith to faith, higher levels of faith. And those two things work in tandem together. So when I think about generational wealth, it's a setup that happens from generation to generation to make sure that the generations that come after us are set up and ready to manifest their destiny, their potential, to exercise their greatness in the world on another level than we had. And so that's when I look at it, it's all about making sure that my children, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren have more opportunity to create, to be, and to fully express all of their potentials and abilities. And so that's something that we have been thinking about in my family for a generation now. And so and that's one thing because we weren't always thinking that. We lost 185 acres of land that our family owned on my maternal side in Caledonia, New York. So I know what it is to squander generational wealth, but I know that it is possible in one generation to rebuild that substantially.
Okay. Okay. So when you hear and think about generational wealth, and before we came live, both of you were Tyler started it off, and then Shamika said, "Oh yeah, for sure." We were talking about you guys were talking about how it's disproportionate when it comes to people of color, right? And things like that. So let's talk about how generational wealth typically gets started historically in the United States, right? And then we'll just go from there.
Well, our discussion prior to going live had to do with redlining, the history of redlining in America, and protective covenants in America. And so when we look at the statistics, the average, and I'm not gonna say people of color, the average African American family has 1/10 of the wealth, the net worth and wealth of the average white family in America. And there are reasons for that. There are reasons that are embedded in the historic racism that has been the history that is woven into the very fabric of this country. And so when we talk about protective covenants, at the end of World War II, as a result of GI Bill, as a result of Fannie Mae, that white families had access to being able to buy property with very little to no down payment, with reasonable payments in all of the suburbs around all of the medium-sized and major cities in America. And so what has that meant over the generations? What that has meant is that those families had an anchor by which they were able to borrow on that property, send their children to college, to start businesses, to borrow money for improvements and self-improvements, physical improvements to the land itself. And those properties have continued to escalate in value. And those protective covenants are in virtually every suburb and suburban area surrounding cities in America. And they actually used to, it's called redlining because they used to draw with a red pen around the areas where Black people were supposed to be contained. And the term blockbuster itself comes from anytime an agent would sell a property to a Black person on a block that had protective covenants, that realtor was called a blockbuster. That's where the term comes from. And so that block busting would initiate in many instances what we call white flight.
Yep.
So that's one of the main and major reasons why there is this tremendous disparity between the wealth of white families and Black families in America today.
Okay. Shamika, what you got anything to add to that?
No, I was just thinking there's a new show, not new show, but there's a show on HBO Max called Them, which definitely talks about that situation where the families are in Compton and then they move into the predominantly white neighborhoods and they go through hell. They basically go through hell.
Yeah.
And I know that we had referenced Shane, and earlier last year I went to like a conference where Wade Norwood talked about, locally around here, some of the things that were done, like the Brighton suburban area, like it was really bad over there. I think like Kodak bought like a whole bunch of the property over there, and we're strictly selling only to white families. So, and you know that neighborhood still resonates that whole undertone. So that was years ago, but it's still the same. It's still the same.
So so let me switch a little bit. So what would you say? Because as we get further into the conversation, I want to talk about some practical ways that people could start if they have not yet, right? Building and generating a generational wealth, right? But what do you say to the individual that says, well, I wasn't given anything when I came up, and I did pretty good for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important for me if I leave something for anybody, any my children, grandchildren, whatever? It's going to create laziness in them, or prevent them from working hard and understanding the benefit of hard work and things like that. Because I've read it, I've seen it on television, I've heard people say it. What do you got to say to that?
Well, I will reference one family that did kind of the opposite. To have wealth gives you choice. That's the whole thing about wealth. Your choices are minimized to the nth degree when you don't have resources. And so just being able to have the choice to leave something is something that so many people scholars never had. Other than goodwill and best wishes and warm thoughts, we don't have anything tangible to pass on. So just
Mm-hmm.
having something to pass on is a choice. And so if I reference the Kennedys, for instance, who have fabulous wealth, generationally and familially, but they were raised, each of them, with a civic understanding of their responsibilities to the communities of which they were part, and they understood the ways of power. They understood not just their civic responsibility, but they understood power. They understood finances. They understood hard work. They valued sticking together. All of those things were bred into them by the heads of that family. And so, on a micro level, whether you have resources or not, it really starts at your head game. Having your head game together. If you have meager resources, you have to band together and be able to level the power of more than just one, the power of many, in order sometimes to make headway in creating generational wealth. And so when I hear people say that I did it all by myself, that's not true. First of all, for anybody to say that they did anything by themselves, they're fooling themselves if they really believe that. Because somebody opened doors for you, somebody gave you opportunity, somebody made allowances for you, somebody created a space in which you could matriculate.
Mm-hmm.
And that often does not happen for some people. So there's an arrogance attached to that is repulsive to me in the beginning. And your situation is not indicative of everyone's situation. And so when people say that kind of stuff to me, I try as best as I can to tactfully, but with clarity, draw the lines of delineation between their experience and the experience of others.
Shamika, what you
I just wanted to read comments too, because I want to acknowledge the people that are following along with us. Rodney says, I think it's both, and we should leave our children wealth, but also teach them to fish and create wealth. So I'll piggyback onto that because.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yes,
I'm glad you read his message, because I was struggling with whether I should call him Rodney or Pastor Grissom.
Oh,
because,
see, I don't know him. So
yeah, exactly. And so I was thinking I could get away with calling him Rodney this time, but you took it. You took my fire away from me.
I'm going to say Pastor Grisham, though.
No, I want to call him Rodney today. But go ahead.
I definitely want to piggyback onto that, because I've seen the excitement from when my daughter has earned. She's only 13. When she's earned a couple dollars versus being given a couple dollars, she hold on to them dollars a little bit tighter when she earns them. So I definitely think that there is a true balance. And I wasn't necessarily brought up and taught these things as a child, but now that I'm older, like my father and I, we kind of talk about finances a little bit more, and he's let me know some of the things and plans that he has in place, for my future. So it has like just spawned this like excitement in me, because now that I know that he is planning on leaving something for me, I feel like I need to do my due diligence to do something for my kids and make sure that that legacy goes on and on and on and on, because I don't want my kids out here struggling. Like, I got $50,000 worth of school loans, and I hate it. I hate it, hate it, hate it. And it's like, as soon as that's done, I can really start to live my life. I can really start to invest and really, like put the pedal to the metal. So it's something that I'm looking forward to.
Okay. Can I piggyback on that a little bit too? Because as I'm listening to this and nodding my head, some things are coming to mind. That one of the powers of poverty is that you're always on that hamster wheel, so that you're living hand to mouth, check to check, situation to situation, calamity to calamity, and resource to resources, where you don't have time or the ability oftentimes to be able and be circumspect, to be able to look ahead, to be able to look back and see the trajectory that you're on, to be able to look forward and aspire to something different. And especially communally, man, poverty is something else. Intractable poverty is something else, because it breeds and replicates itself, and it creates this kind of additional atmospheric barrier to breaking through. When we look at a rocket that launches from Cape Canaveral, the largest fuel tanks are on that initial stage rocket in order to get it out of the atmosphere and the gravitational pull of the earth. And breaking free from poverty is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, we could really break this discussion down on so many levels, but just the police presence makes it difficult in areas that are poverty stricken. This is why we're talking about defund the police. It's hard to break free out of poverty if you might get killed at a traffic stop.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to break free out of poverty if for trivial things you find yourself in jail with high bails.
Mm.
So these things they feed on themselves, and they create this environment where it's more and more difficult, especially now that on an average 3% or better a year, our money is going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So today, somebody who 20 years ago made $20, that $20 an hour equates into $10 an hour now. And so it's a quagmire, breaking free from poverty and being able to think about generational wealth. It's a tough thing.
So I think we all three and others agree that poverty is something that is very prevalent in a lot of lives, right? But at the same time, we're saying that I think we agree that we have an obligation at some point as parents, as somebody, right? Family members, I think at best parents, to create some sort, or to begin creating some sort of generational wealth for our children and our families as much as we can. But how do you do that when you're dealing with what you just said, Tyler, when it comes to the fact that poverty's in our face and things like that? But before you answer that, let me just read. Andre says,
you see the comments. Great.
Yeah,
so I don't have to monitor the chat.
Yeah, typical Andre. He said a lot. It says,
let me see more.
Yeah, let me see. So first, Pastor Wilson says, Rodney says, churches should start a bond. So I guess this is one of the ways, right? Churches should start a bond for every child who gets blessed in their baby years. I think that's a great way to do it, right? Mm-hmm. He also says that we need to remember that generational wealth is built with real property, not necessarily liquid assets. Now, go down to what Andre says. And Andre says, I think the first step is to build an emergency fund and get out of debt. How do you do that? After that, there are several paths to obtain wealth. The easiest of which is to own some index funds. What is that? Real estate is another option, but I think people should hold off on that until they have a few years of stability. So I don't know if you guys want to address what Pastor Rodney said, or what, but I just want to let everybody know that's not paying attention to the chat that those things are said. And I think that those things are some things that should be addressed and are good ideas as well.
Well, I'll definitely agree with Andre with the emergency fund. I have taken the Dave Ramsey approach. I know some people follow him, some people don't. Do whatever makes your bank account look the way you want it to do. So
what is the Dave Ramsey account? What is the Dave Ramsey's approach?
It's the method. It's the method, and it's the baby step number one is to get yourself like an emergency fund. And he pretty much attacks debt. He definitely lives by like a no debt kind of a lifestyle. Like take care of stuff, pay for stuff, don't buy new cars, buy used cars. Like just to break that whole paycheck to paycheck cycle. It's pretty intense, but it's doable. I was a facilitator for the class. It is Christian based. So, it worked for me. And I will say that having that emergency fund definitely changed my mentality and made me feel a lot more comfortable to attack debt a little bit more. It made me feel like I had enough money to save for that rainy day. And surprisingly, saving that money, that rainy day hasn't come. So I'm very blessed in that area. Like I said, once I get done with these school loans, I was free. And that means like that's everything. I'm free after that.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about the whole I guess so he and Andre put a link in the chat about the Ramsey solutions, right? For those that are interested and don't know, they can click on that and check it out. But what do you think about the whole index funds, not getting real estate first? Shamika, when I first met you, you talked about some very practical ways
saving money.
To save money, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was pretty intense back then.
Right,
yeah.
but there are very simple ways that people can do things, right? But when it comes to discipline, so you think about, let's talk about this whole the stimulus situation, right? There are a lot of people who were out of work and they needed the money, right? And it came on time. Some of it came late, but when it came, they were able to get themselves in a situation where they were better than when it came. But then there are individuals who worked, never skipped a beat, right? They got 1,400 times whatever, right? And they got blessed with this money and went buck wild with it, right?
Bought TVs.
My goodness, I went to Walmart one time and I said to the dude, I asked the Walmart dude, I was like, yo, are you guys like rearranging? He was like, nah, man, the stimulus checks are coming through, right? Crazy, right? What should have been done? What could have been done? And why wasn't it done?
The mentality, again, that poverty is mindset, and poverty that becomes intractable has so much to do with the mindset that comes along with it, and that's not to call people crazy. Because, when you're suffering, when you're struggling, what you want to do is escape, and there's a whole nother set of repercussions that come from being caught in this. This is why you have drug abuse. This is why you have relationship insolvency. This is, most couples fight about money. That's married, living together, whatever. You fight about money. You have disagreements about money. You have different mindsets and perspectives about what you should do with money. But it's not abnormal for people to just want relief, to be able to go in the bar and have a drink, and to be able to sit down and watch TV in a big screen, and enjoy yourselves. But I think that is what you call, it's the kind of thing that lulls you to sleep.
Yep.
And so again, that awareness of where you are, that sober-minded approach to living your life, not trying to keep up with the Joneses, not trying to be like your friends, not trying to be like your family members that aren't like-minded, finding other people that say, man, we're in a heck of a mess, but we can get out of it. Let's try to pool our experiences. Let's try to pool even our money. Let's try to pool information, share information so that we can get the heck out of this situation so that our children don't live in that this kind of quagmire as well. So it's a mindset for me. And just you mentioned a terrible word, man, discipline.
Yeah,
Hard.
it's rough, right?
Discipline.
Discipline.
Man, it's rough. Yeah. So yeah.
So, Samika, go ahead.
No, I was saying,
Okay. So
Yeah,
let's go back to the money, right?
mm-hmm.
Some people might have some of it left, right? Because there's only so many clubs you could have gone to, because of the shutdown, right? And there's only so many outfits you could have bought because the malls are limited, right?
Yes.
So some of them might have $100, $200, $300, $400 left, right? Some people are purposely not paying their rent, right?
Yeah.
So now that they have this money, right? What is it? And let's just say a fourth check comes through, and they're in a situation where they can do something different this time around. What's your recommendation?
Definitely that emergency fund, because emergency is bound to happen. That's my first thing personally for me. But I'm also in a different. I guess I'm in a different mindset. I guess you just have to really assess the needs to what's coming up, because if it's a medical bill or if it's food or if you haven't gotten a job, you have to take those things into account first. But I mean, not necessarily the whole stimulus check, but a tenth of it, start small.
right. And instituting a discipline, and shifting the mindset from being, live. I got to live by the wants and desires of my stomach, the wants and desires of my physicality. Even the music that we listen to with a poverty mindset keeps us on materialism and sex, feeling good. That's all we want to do is feel good. Where our music is not talking about, in many cases, at least not in the mainstream of our music that we hear often, that is pummeled into our head, those same 10 songs that we listen to all day on radio and on media outlets, those songs that are pounded into our heads that are owned by multinational corporations, who have a vested interest in maintenance of the status quo. That our music even reflects this mindset of hand to mouth. I just want to feel good. I just want to feel good. And so breaking out of that high, breaking out of that delusion, breaking out of that mindset is difficult. But we have to get to that point, and people on an individual and communal level have to get to that point where we realize the mess that we're in a sober-minded way, and we take small incremental steps. As a personal trainer, I tell people, look, you ain't gonna look like the magazine cover in 30 days. We got to build a habit first. We got to build a habit of you doing what you need to do to take care of your health in terms of your meal planning, in terms of your exercise, in terms of rest, in terms of how you're feeding your mentality. And so it's an incremental thing. So if you got a little stimulus money left, you set it aside, like Mika was saying. This is going to be our emergency fund, but let's look at how we can add to that emergency fund. Let's look at how we can augment it. I can pick up a few more hours over here. I can get a hustle over here. Where we've got money over and above what our budget says that we have to pay. The creation of a budget.
Set the budget first.
That's it. So I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about the importance of having a budget, right? The importance of or how simple it is, right? How simple it is, or some steps to go into creating a budget, right? And of course, all of this goes back to that big word, discipline, right? But I want to share a quick pet peeve of mine where person X is making X dollars an hour, right? And they're living pretty good, right? They're making their because they can still afford to buy their weed. They can still afford to have the extracurricular activities, right? Right, and go out here and there and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But then when they get the raise, right? That raise doesn't get put aside because I need that money, right? But you've been living well without it, right? Even if you cut back on some of the extracurricular, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have extracurricular activities in your life, right? As long as they're good extracurricular activities, right? But if you can cut back on those things, the money that you're getting before this raise, right, would be enough. And that raise money, that the extra $1 an hour or 25 cents an hour, for all I care, can be put somewhere, right? And save for a rainy day. A guy, my best friend I was talking to today, said a lot of times people come into money and they run through it, and then when something happens, car breaks down, or the hot water tank goes bad for those that own their homes, or someone gets in trouble and they're in bed, they need bail, and everybody's trying to pull money together. They can't come to you because why? Because that stuff wasn't there. But let's talk about a budget. And I just want to, while you're talking about a budget, Shamika, I know that's one of your biggest pet peeves. I do want to just read really quick though. Edwin, what up though? Edwin is a good friend. Anyways, Edwin, I want to read Rodney, Andre, and just read these things real quick. So Edwin says,
Chris, I got grandpa duty. I'm gonna put the phone down and I'll come right back.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. Yeah, this is why I like this live stuff, because life is real, right? And,
yeah, man, it is. It is.
And so they need to see a grandfather active in their grandchildren's lives. So go ahead, man. Do what you got to do.
Yes.
Can't be no other way over here.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you in a minute.
Yes, sir. So Eddie says generational wealth comes in 3 factors: property ownership, cash flow or debt management, as Shamika, you were saying, and education. There's power in education because it opens the doors for creating the wealth. For creating the wealth. You may be the first generation to start the process, but you have to begin training the children in cash flow management process. All this leads to debt management. The Bible teaches 10% to God and 10% back to yourself. Rodney says, I'm hoping I'm not talking too much, but this is my hobby horse. We need to make the money work for us. The next stimulus check should be strategically aligned to create more money, businesses, investments. Oh man, I won't open more. Oh, businesses, investments, okay, etc. Then Andre says, I think Tyler's correct about the mindset. I purchased 3 new cars in 12 months and rolled each loan into the next one. I also had 3 student loans. I think I was paying I'm not about to read all of this. Andre said a lot, but there are ways to roll money into one and to save when you do that kind of stuff. Rodney's my brother. Andre's my brother, so he knows he talks a lot, but
you can just scroll over him.
Yeah. That's my man. So go ahead. Let's talk about the budget. And by the way, I think Andre, Eddie, and Pastor Grissom have a lot of great points there. But let's get it going. Let's talk about the budget, Shamika, because this is your thing.
That is my thing. Like I look at that thing every day. I actually use the app called EveryDollar, and I'm sure I think Andre had pinged Dave Ramsey right earlier. So that's another Dave Ramsey thing. I use the free one. I ain't trying to pay for it, so I use the free one, and I literally like log every expense into it like every couple of days. I usually don't go more than 3 days without logging every transaction, but that's kind of how I check myself, my P's and my Q's and whatnot. And at one point in time, when I first started this, I was able to actually be like a month ahead. So say, for example, this is the month of May. Everything that I get paid in May, I don't even use in May. I use for June. So I just log it in as my income for June. So I'm a month ahead. My goal is obviously have enough savings to live for 12 months, like 12 months of my expenses. But that's where I am right now. And like I said, I've done the $1,000 emergency fund, and I'm just plugging away. I've been saving, and I kind of just get stuck because I'm like, I really like what my savings is looking like, but my student loans look like this. But the EveryDollar app, like I said, is free. It's easy. It's a way for you to really see how you're spending your money every single day, if need be. You just have to be disciplined. As we all have said, that's the word of the day: discipline.
So how do you? So discipline keeps popping up.
Yep.
How were you always disciplined when it came?
Absolutely not.
So how did you
Absolutely
get there?
not.
Because a lot of people are going to say, you know what, it's easier said than done. A lot of us are attracted to living like the Joneses. And truth be told, and I think I put this on Facebook. A lot of people who pretend like they're living life, right? They ain't. Right, they take the money and they spend it up, right, and they go on these trips, shoot down to Atlanta and live it up like they're balling, and come back and then got to borrow, call mommy for money, for whatever, right? But they do it because the friends are doing it.
Yeah.
And how do I do that and not come across as this cheapskate or this? I
have,
Tell me.
and there's been some hard moments in my life right now. I'll say, I've definitely suffered in the friendship area, and I'm not around the same people, but I'm okay with that for right now. I'm okay with that. I am. I know you were like, well, how do you become disciplined? For me, it took trauma for me to become disciplined. It wasn't until I actually had to take care of and pay for everything myself. It was when I was going through a divorce where I was making my own money, budgeting my own money, and spending my own money that I had to learn to be disciplined, because that's what it took. I had to pay the bills myself, make the money myself, and spend the money myself. So that's when I became disciplined.
Wow. Yeah. Well, getting to discipline required a change of mindset, which precipitated a change of habits. And so when I think, even from a Christian standpoint, when you look at the analogy of the garden, Adam and Eve, people always talk about what was the fruit that they ate. It wasn't so much a fruit, it was a thought.
Mm.
They bought into a thought that precipitated death. And our thinking, the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. Our thoughts produce the lives that we live. And so we have to get the proper information and it's just the power of words, man, inform. That the right information comes inside and forms your mindset, forms the habits that are resultant from your mindset, and causes you to live successfully. And so we've got so much misinformation that we operate on, so much ignorance that we operate on, that keeps us and precludes us from being able to act in discipline along the lines of behaviors and thoughts that are going to engender success. And so discipline is something that you have to awaken from the fog of sameness to see that there is a different way to live, and there is a higher way to live, that you can aspire and achieve something different that drives you to want to discipline. Those things, they go hand in hand. The right information. The Bible says, without a vision, the people perish. We got to see ourselves being successful. We got to see ourselves being in a different state. We got to see our children living lives that we can only dream of, but that we set the foundation for with the discipline that we acquire. So self-improvement is important.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the right information, wanting to live better, wanting to achieve more meaningful living has to be an aspiration that we have beyond just satisfying our carnal needs.
So what I'm hearing you guys saying is, for, like Andre said, you got to get to a point where you're tired of giving your money away, right? In order to become disciplined, you've got to get to a point where you want it, right? It's just like losing weight. It's just like getting in shape. It's just like getting that education. It's just like getting a job, right? You got to want it in order to get it, right? And you got to go after it and stick to it, right? And I believe that there are small steps, right? There are, you don't have to think that you're going to take your whole paycheck and put it to the side, right? Especially if it's a discipline thing. You got to go with baby steps. I know when I wasn't born into no wealth, you know what I mean? But I was one of those people that just squandered away money, right? I wanted to live the way I wanted to live. I wanted to spend it on whatever I wanted to spend it on. And then I ended up always having to go back and borrow money and pay it back and things like that. And it got to a point where it's like, man, that's crazy. And then I heard someone say that if you're going to get out of this thing, one, you have to have multiple irons in the fire, right? And of course you have to want to stop living that way. Real quick, I read, and it's one of these corny rappers that they listen to nowadays, and so that's why I don't remember his name. But the guy, I was on Instagram, and he said, "I've got a lot of money, but I live like I don't have it." He said a lot of my rapper peers go out and they're living their best life, and he said, and that's fine, but I like living as if, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I like living as if I don't have money, but knowing that I do. So when I need it, I can get it, because those guys are going to go broke a lot sooner than I will. I wish those kids listened to those statements from those guys' mouths instead of just the crap. I mean, the rap that they listen to when it comes out of their mouth. You like that one?
Yes. Rap.
But it is what it is, right? But and so we're here to try our best to get these guys to understand that, one, it is our responsibility. I personally feel if you're coming from, it might be a dual parent role, right? But I feel like the father has to get to a point first where he says, I cannot let my children and my children's children and my wife or whoever go on without me and not have some sort of financial stability, right? I think that if it's a dual thing, right, and both parents, obviously that's awesome, right? And if it's a single parent and the mother's doing it, that's cool. But I think men have a responsibility, and this is why I do this whole next level man thing, because I need men to understand that there's a responsibility that lies in their lap, right? And you can't avoid it, because when you're dying and you look back and you say, dang, I should have taken that $10 a month and put it on whatever insurance, life insurance company there was to keep my family from having to now scramble or cremate me because it's cheaper, right? And now my wife or spouse will have nothing to live off of, or to catch up with the bills that I created. You know what I mean? All that stuff is whack. As a man, I don't believe that personally. Chris's soapbox is, as a man, you should not be able to walk away from this earth and your family sit there and say, now what do we do? Now now you might not have left a lot because you got in the game late, right? But you should leave them something so they can at least put your behind in the ground and feel good about that.
And better than that.
Yeah, no disagreement there at all, bro. You know, if you can't leave something physical, leave a mindset. Leave a pattern of achievement. Leave an example of real manhood and womanhood. Leave an example of somebody who is aspirational. Leave an example of somebody who caught a vision and then went after that vision with all their heart. Leave an example of somebody who was able to change their behaviors and change their outcomes and frame a different life for themselves than they enjoyed or didn't enjoy formerly. You know, leave a transformative legacy. You know, if you don't have any money, leave a transformative legacy. You know, if you were smoking too much weed, leave a legacy where you were able to stop that and stay gainfully employed and take care of your family, even if it was still just subsistence level. At least leave some type of transformative legacy where you went from point A to point B, from glory to glory, from faith to faith, where you took it to another level during the time that you were given.
Tamika, what you got to say?
I agree. That's that like that historical identity. Like, you know, we're always looking to our past. Like, you know, it's very hard for Black people to find, you know, their lineage because of documentation, so on and so forth. So like he said, even if it's just a transformative, you know, experience, leave something, you know, because I had this thing where I've been looking in the Democrat Chronicle and I'm just like, dang, all my family was, you know, doing basketball, deaths, robberies. Like, it's got to be more than just that. It's got to be more than just that. So, you know, a little bit more,
I come from, on my dad's side, I come from a generation of go-getters. My grandfather and his brothers were all owners of their own business, right? With great reputations. And my great-grandfather was the first of his siblings to take what money was given to him from his brother when he passed, right, and invested in property and all this stuff, right? And I think it translated into what Tyler said about this whole legacy thing, where it influenced my, because when he died, it wasn't enough for his children, but it influenced my grandfather and his brothers to get out and get theirs, right? And unfortunately, I see where it didn't trickle down. You know, I think that my generation and even the generation behind us were influenced a great deal by the music we listened to, the things that we saw on television, that fast living, that want it quick type of deal. And I think that it is an indication that it was a grand scheme. So you go back to this stimulus check, a lot of people who didn't have could have, and their children could have, if they took that money and they did the right thing with it, right? But I think that the powers that be knew that most of you will take your money and go and buy the TVs, and we'll go and buy the sneakers, and we'll go and party and go to the states that are open and live it up, la vida loca, and come back. For those of you that don't know what that means y'all know I'm bilingual, right? Living
On
crazy.
Tuesdays.
Living
On
crazy life.
Tuesdays.
Yeah.
On Tuesdays.
So anyways, but they went and they lived crazy, right? And I think that they knew that, right? And so again, here you are now continuously depending on the government, right? And your kids, when you pass, have nothing, right? But a dead horse is a dead horse. We got 10 minutes, about 12 minutes left. I want to talk about some real life. This is what you can do to help get rid of your debt, you know, or to get yourself in that mindset. Read this book. We talked about your man, Wayne Weigland.
Shane
Wiegand.
I texted
Shane.
you the correct way to say it too.
I know. You know what happened is Google auto-corrected me and made it Wayne, which is crazy because whatever. Okay. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about some step-by-step. This is what I've done. You can go to Cash App and take your $3 that's in there and buy some stock in whatever. You get what I'm saying? Let's talk about that.
Exactly. You could. I would love to go because y'all know you don't know, but I'm a penny pincher, like to the T. And you know, like I said, I follow the EveryDollar app because it lets me see literally where every single one of my dollars is going. So I challenged myself starting at the beginning of this year to actually reduce my grocery budget to $200 a month, because we have a problem with just buying groceries for no reason. So on multiple occasions, my fridge looks empty unless you cook. And my daughter's like, Mom, there's nothing to eat. And I'm like, you have to cook. Like, I can see the back of the refrigerator often, and it has reduced food waste tremendously. Like, some people are like $200 for the month. I spend that in one trip. I'm like, no, $200 for the month. And I have used Instacart because I don't go into the store. I've paid $99 for the whole year, but the minimum to get free delivery is $35. Guess how much my bill is? $39, $36, $37. But I make sure that I'm just filling the voids. Like, I'm just buying the milk. I'm just buying the butter. I'm just buying the cheese. You know, I look in the fridge to see what's actually missing, but it has really worked. So I've cut my grocery bill down to $200 a month.
So repeat that one more time, a little shorter, so I can make sure I understand what you're saying.
So like that, I said, I've used the EveryDollar app just so that I can make sure I can account for where every single one of my dollars goes. You can break it down into categories. You could do grocery, gas, dining, eating out, you know, your tithing, your giving. I even allocate for giving too. Like, cause you know, people like to be like, can you give to this? Can you give to that? Well, you know what? I got $50. So first come, first serve. Once that $50 is gone, I ain't giving no more for that month. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm in a sorority, so I even budget for that. I only got $50 for Zeta this month, you know, or, you know, for track, I only got $27.99. Like, and I make sure it's balanced to the T, and I make sure that I'm saving every month and, you know, just filling all of those different spaces. But I challenge myself to reduce my monthly expenses. I will call Sprint and be like, I want to be on auto pay to save the $5 extra every month. I do that because 5 times 12 is $60, you know, so I do that.
Okay. I like that. Tyler, what do you say?
Oh, I agree. And I think that you have to use a twofold approach. Definitely saving. And I love some of the strategies that Mika just gave us. But at the other side of the equation, you have to find ways to stretch and increase your earning power. So saving and increasing your earning power, finding ways, within a subdivision, on a street, there are a lot of people that might not have a lawnmower. If you got a lawnmower, go and cut some grass, or or go cut their grass and make $20. I've done all of these things, where I found myself outside of corporate America. I found myself without a job, but that doesn't mean you have to be idle. You get up early, and I used to have, I borrowed a lawnmower from my sister and threw it in the back of my trunk when I lost a job. And I went out door to door for an entire month cutting grass. Some days not making any more than the gas money that it required to get there. But you know what? Within a month, after I showed some diligence about doing that, people started saying, "Well, man, I got a room in here that needs painting. I got some sheetrock that needs repairing," and I had acquired those skills, and so that I was able to monetize those skills and buoy myself through my unemployed period. I don't say this as a brag, but I've never drawn unemployment in my life. If I found myself without a job, even though I was entitled to it, I'm not saying everybody should do that. If you're entitled to it, get it. But I've never once drawn unemployment in my life. I just felt like I wanted to go out and work and figure it out. And I knew that I could. I had the confidence that I could do that I had enough skill sets. I had enough moxie. I had enough drive to say, no, I'm going to put the beer down. I'm going to put the weed down. I'm gonna discipline myself, and I'm gonna get up early in the morning, and I'm gonna find a way to bring $100 in this house today. And so that's what you got to do. You got to save and find a way to make money. And lately, my whole life has been catapulted into another echelon because I have more information. You don't have to. There are alternatives to traditional banking. There are alternatives to the traditional ways that we are taught and bred to give our money to other people so that they can take it and make money with it and give you crumbs in return. There are other ways. Like I started working with a private equity firm about 8 months ago, and what I've been able to realize in terms of benefit has been life-changing for me. And so those things are available. You just got to get the information. You got to be looking for information as one of the ways to expand your ability to do more with what you have, and find ways to do more than you did before, utilizing very little more energy. More return, less work. So anyway.
See,
I will say,
go ahead.
I will say that commute time to work, that 10 to 15 minutes, I make sure that I'm listening to podcasts that are educational. Like the radio don't cut it for me no more. I have to be always learning. I'm sitting here. You might as well be learning something.
Yeah.
It's a drug. It's a drug. They're giving you drugs in multivaried forms. Your food full of drugs. If you start getting off those drugs, the information that you're fed, and the music that you're fed, all that stuff is a drug to pacify you and lull you to sleep. But there is no reason why a person has to remain uninformed and ignorant in this world today. There's just absolutely no reason.
You're absolutely right. If you can download Spotify for you to listen, whatever, then you can download some podcast apps and feed your mind. Jim Rome said that you're the average of the 5 people. I'm trying to figure out which way my hand goes that you associate with the most, right? So if the 5 people that you hang out with are broke, living paycheck to paycheck, borrowing money or blowing the money that they get, then 9 times out of 10, you are one of those people that do the same thing. And if you want to learn how to not live like that, then you got to find the individuals who don't live like that, associate with them more than you do the other guys or girls, and change your life,
Be
right?
by yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
She so yeah, I think that it's time for us to wrap it up. But I think that this was very, very beneficial. There's a lot of great comments in the chat that I think those that are not that have not checked out, or when you listen to this later, make sure you don't skim through it. Read the comments in the chats, because a lot of people chimed in with some great ideas and information. I really just appreciate you two, man. You know, it's good because I associate with good people, right? And so it's good to have you guys in my circle. And I just appreciate the both of you and the knowledge that you're so willing to share with the world. Especially, I really hope young people listen to this and get their lives together. But I do want to shout out, because I told you guys I'd like to celebrate my friends. And so I don't want to misquote your titles or anything, but I want to let everybody listening know that my friends are good people, and they're doing great things, and they're doing big things, and they are evidence of the fact that hard work pays off. So why don't we start with Mika and then Tyler? Just tell them about what you do professionally, and we can go from there.
Cool. So I am a branch manager at the Lyle Branch Library. That's pretty much where I spend the majority of my time. But like Tyler said, you got to have a side hustle. So I sell anything, just about anything. I use a lot of the resale markets. So, there's a lot of turnover at my house. Like, see, too long. If she leave it on the floor too long, it might get sold. Like, that's just how it is. So that's how I've been able to produce extra income too. But yeah, I'm also a part of the illustrious organization of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So I'm always constantly around business-minded professional women that keep me encouraged and whatnot. So, I like to do a lot of things that just kind of get me out and about for free. I like free stuff. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Crazy too. We got to add that. Yeah, funny. Tyler, tell them what you do, T.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Tell them what you do. Tell them about this whole physical.
Get out your ear. Get out your ear.
I was sitting in the car, and the car switched over off of the system back to phone. So what I do multiple things. I own a moving company, and that I've had for about 30 years. And then I'm involved as a trusted officer in a private equity company that is kind of like a venture capital company. And then I personal train. It's one of my passions. And I've also been a musician all my life. And you wrote the play, so don't skip over to the play thing you plugged in before we went live. So go ahead and talk about that too. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I love the word of God, man. So I spend time from time to time, teaching the word as well. And that's my main passion. That's awesome. So real quick, you guys mentioned the Shane Wieglin. Can you just tell everybody who he is? I'm going to put his name up here, why they should check him out, and all this other good stuff. So here we go with Shane.
Tyler, I'll let you go because I haven't had the chance to watch
he's from Rochester, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He's a teacher in the city school district, and he has put together a phenomenal presentation that helps to illuminate the history of protective covenants and redlining in the United States. That is one of the foundational reasons for the wealth disparity between blacks and whites. Okay, good. And we should check him out, right? Does he have a book out or anything? I'm not sure. We're gonna reach out to him and have him on here. How about that? Yep. All right,
that'd be awesome. Well, we will follow up with the Color of Law being a reference book for people.
Oh yeah,
awesome, dope. Yeah. If we can get Lomax on here, that'd be dope too.
That would be.
Yeah, for real. So hey, thank you guys very, very much. I think that at the end of the day, everybody who listens to this should walk away with the understanding that generational wealth is very important, right? Not everyone had the privilege of being born into it, but there is an opportunity to do it. Clara said, what did she say? She said, if you can't leave money, don't leave a bunch of debt.
Hallelujah.
And it could be something as simple as that, by living frugal enough to where when you do leave this earth, your family isn't stuck with spending what little bit of money they have on cleaning up your mess, right? And both of you said, if you can't leave anything tangible, at least leave a legacy of improvement so that your family can follow behind that as well. And I really dig that. I dig that, and I think that's going to be my motto for the month of May. I just want to thank you guys very much. Thank everybody for who was listening in and chimed in. And make sure you check the chat because there's a lot of stuff in there. That whole what was the thing? The whole app, thing, Shamika. Who?
EveryDollar.
No, yeah, but who recommended that? Who? Yeah.
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, the whole Dave Ramsey philosophy and all that other good stuff is in there. So thank you guys. Ty, I hope you have a good, safe trip to the city, man. I love both of you.
I love you.
You guys and your families.
Yep.
And we'll holler soon. When this thing is over, we need to have like a real round table and sit down. All of us.
Let's do it.
I can't wait.
Let's do it. Mika, God bless you.
You too as well. Thank you.
You guys be safe.
Thank you, Chris. I love you, brother.
Of course, man. Love you, man. Love you guys.
Take care now.
Peace.
Bye-bye.